Hi, I think I'm back. Sorry, bit of a blip there. Part two, more feedback. So it's best if you upload as a Word document. That way I can open like this. So I get here and it says open with Google Docs and all the comments that I add. I'm adding mostly comments down here on the text. So then you can see what I want to say. And then I'll fill in different things in the script as well. In the rubric as well. So document is best, the Word doc. Try to avoid Hangul, HWP, or PDF as well. So doc is the easiest for me to add. Now, one point here. Um, Goal of the preparation activity is to review all the key words that students need for the core activity. So this one, we've got colors, and we're looking at, should be more, 20 colors. If there's only 12, the game's usually too easy. And yeah, this one is grade 3, so it should be easy, but why not add different shapes? So you could have your craft, instead of just fish here, you could be fishing for different shapes and colors, like yellow triangle, red circle, etc. And there's actually no preparation activity. As soon as you start the game, which in this case is the core activity, this is really just your introductory questions when you enter the class. So in this case, there's no P activity. Please use something from the teacher toolbox that reviews all the words necessary for the core activity, which in this case is colors, and I recommend shapes as well. Okay, so where are we? This case, sorry, we're started. This case, we are reviewing emotions. It's best to keep all your keywords in the same form. So I would keep these as adjectives, as I've said there. Sleepy, provoking, provocational, too difficult. Panic, again, is a noun. It's not easy. Sad, okay, unwilling, bit tough, but fine. Cute, loving. So keep all your keywords in the same form. It makes the games easier. It makes it easier for students to understand and follow. And try to be specific. So we're trying to review these words to make sure students know or remember the meaning. You got, yep, this is panic. What situation of this, too open-ended a question. It's difficult for students to find the vocabulary in English to answer that question. So a yes, no kind of question is usually easier. So you're late for school. How do you feel? And that would turn this into a better preparation activity. Like each of these are cards on the board. You've created questions for each one. And the students must run up to the board, and the first one to grab the matching adjective and say the word, like, I feel panicked when I am late for school. And you model that sentence on the board. That would be a good preparation activity, reviewing all the words as adjectives that would be less difficult than this. So instead, what we have is a barrage of questions, many different questions, all different forms. And although this has good intentions in a real English class with native English speakers, it's difficult for students to follow in a second language. So one model sentence, all you're doing is checking that they know these words. They shouldn't need to have all this extra question vocabulary to do the activity successfully. It's just a warm-up after all. Right, so during your directions for making the craft, lots of questions like this are good. So you're doing something like place the colored paper like this, then you're asking. So this checks that students are following and understanding what you're doing. So this is good. Okay, and it's always a good idea to, when you give a direction, to carry it out at the same time in your example. So you start there, okay, This is the rule. So here we start with our games. One person from each group memorizes a sentence on the board and says the sentence to the group. So it's quite long. And if you follow on with another direction, you don't know if they heard this or if they were listening and they understand. So follow it with questions, So I would probably start here, say, okay, who's first? Right, and you name the student, Jiho. Right, so you memorize this sentence, and by using this instead of the, I know when I read the script, you're pointing to or showing the student the sentence they memorize, not imagining it somewhere else. Now, Jiho, read the sentence to the group, and then you wait while they read it. Okay, did everyone hear that sentence? So think of it like that. Telling the direction, asking questions, doing the example at the same time as giving directions. Don't wait by giving directions first, then the example game later. And as we discussed, you're trying to avoid this third person reference, they and one person. Do direct, like I said, Jiho, or person's name, or you, pointing to the person. So here our craft is spinners. So you're picturing, you have this picture on the screen, or maybe you've got a copy of this on the board. You're pointing to it, and that's a good chance to ask questions. Have you seen these before? Right. What is this? It's an arrow. Okay. So when I turn it like this, what am I doing? Turning. What's another word for turning? Spinning. Right. These are spinners. So imagine leading them through the understanding of what you want step by step. And that goes for any new words that you have. And we use scissors and tack, don't forget. So that's not a simple word. If you think students need it, I might say pin, but if you need that word, hold it up. What is this called in Korean? Right. Do you know the English word? So these are good questions to lead them through. And it shows me, an onlooker, that you are leading them through the understanding and you're interacting and demonstrating to and with children. Okay, and here I had a while to find this one, but remember, preparation activity is not just a warm-up, which many of you might consider like an icebreaker. So a lot of this is just icebreaking, just that warm-up, putting the background to the class. I'm not really grading that, but I understand why you do it. And then we're getting into the idea of reviewing subjects, math, science, etc. Then I get this, there are some cards here, guess what picture is this and say related subjects, but there's no real game directions. It hasn't been split into a game. And I say game, it doesn't need points and score, but an organized activity where everyone, or at least every team or pair, gets a chance to review and see all of the words that you've done. So not enough to call this an activity. Nice idea for a craft, puppets, but these handful of 4 directions, too short, not enough, leading students through making this. Okay, so preparation activities are quite short, simple, reviewing the keywords. Try to avoid writing because that needs the knowledge of the spelling of the word as well as remembering what the word is in English. So unless, as I've said there, students can see the words, so they're copying from the board, and if they're not sure about writing, they can do that. Putting pictures on it or touching the keyword might work better for a preparation activity. And in this case, it's a teacher-led activity, so the teacher is giving the hints. Students are, you said writing the words, fine. That works. Saves you organizing a group or team activity. So that's suitable as a preparation. So yeah, with instructions machine, as we said, you could ask a question where students use Korean so they can see what it is. And then you've said here, everyone knows, okay, in English, this is called an instructions machine. give a reason or ask a question. So probably a reason here, because we follow instructions, or because we use it to follow instructions, like that. And again, hopefully over time, the only time you'll ask this question is right at the end before playing a core activity. Really isn't any need for these general questions, even though you've asked Mingi. Be specific. So this is a good way of avoiding writing for preparation activity. So we've got, someone's got the flag and the name of the country, or rather continent here, and you have to draw a line between the two. So you've got UK, Europe, etc. That saves the students writing the name of the country or continent or your keywords. I should add that feel free to adapt these. Anything that has movement, gets students up and moving, is fun and active for children. So instead of them drawing lines on a paper, why not give each person a flag and another person the name of that country's from the flag. They look at it, they put it in their pocket, and they go around asking questions like, what color is your flag? And this is modeled before you do it, or what colors are in your flag. And if they say red, white, and blue, they can probably guess, is it Australia, or is it America, or is it UK? And they're trying to find the person with the match to their flag in the pocket or the name of the country. So you can adapt these as well. Keep words simple. Horizontal and vertical are not simple words. So you're probably doing it on the board. So fold it like this, you're showing, or you're drawing a line on the board. So you're drawing a line like this. So fold it in this direction and then in this direction. Or if you really want to use these words, you need to paraphrase. Horizontal. Have you seen the word horizon before? Where is the horizon, right? Is it this way or is it this way? So you could go through a series of questions or just avoid and simplify these words. So any games that you use, like from here, this one, auditory Pelmanism, difficult name, so feel free to change the name. I've left the original name so you can find it on Google or something, or in the books. But here you can change it, to a simpler name like Match the Cards, or whatever it is that matches the goal of the game. Of course, feel free to, rather than just tell students with the example, do it with them directly. So here are two types of cards. You're one pair, so here's one for you, one for you. Right, okay, who's first? Tim, can you read your card? What color is a banana? Okay. So you're walking through with the students directly. So the preparation activity prepares students for the core. Flashcards is the absolute minimum for a preparation activity, but I'm hoping you'll come up with something more interesting, more creative, or something from the teacher toolbox. Okay, so if you do this, you need to cover the words. I'd recommend you do a preparation 2 as well, something more involved. Or better still, just adapt this so you are making it more active, more original. So in points like this, yep, that's a good direction. On the green paper, write the place, and you've got an example, but also do it with students. So you said, for example, so Jiho, what will you write, or what place will you write? Or you might just say, okay, go ahead and do that now. Did everyone write one place? Then ask somebody individual, Jiho, what did you write? A lot of Jihos in my script. Yeah, so individual questions to show that you're working with students at the same time. And we have further down, which is good. Right, and here we have in the core activity of the dice game, we've reviewed all of the keywords, which was, we've got colors and these verbs. So that's been reviewed. But then in our core activity, you can see that there's actually some grammar knowledge needed as well, like these S's. You eat, but the football team eats. So this is where the grammar activities of this week, you need to review that subject-verb agreement. And it really should have been done in this lesson too, to make sure students can tell when to use the S and when not to. And as we discussed in video 1, this has cleverly put the prepositional phrases on one card rather than separating at and work. It's got at work in the one card. So that's good. It avoids any clashes, any difficulty, because then your job as a teacher trying to explain why it's at the train or on the train and not in the train, etc. That will simplify it by keeping it on the same card. And same here, we've got in the afternoon, but at, it's on the same card, which keeps it simple. Okay, I mean, normally in class, I would say avoid playing a video because then students, you don't need to do the demonstration things. But if you're showing it for clarity, then doing the directions, asking, then fine. And that goes for any future core activity games or any games in general. Keep the language simple. I mean, occasionally you might think that there's a word that you've just got to use, and that's okay when you're showing, because you're showing it on the paper. So then playing video, make dents like this using your ruler, and you're pointing and showing at the same time. And in the script, one thing we mentioned was to try and be efficient. The goal is to maximize the use of English by the students, not you, the teacher, to get students speaking. So in this one, it's students just asking the teacher in turn. That means each student's only speaking just one time, and they're waiting until the other 20 have spoken, and probably not listening in that time. So better to do a mingle where they go around asking each other, and you then are just listening. We did that as freshmen, I believe. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. Or an activity where they're working in pairs. Quick clothes change, a new day. Okay, this is an example of what not to do. So when you get to the making craft part, of course, you should be giving a number of directions so that students follow step by step with feedback, with questions, not just this, fold the paper like this, and showing a picture or video. So that is a shortcut which you shouldn't take. All right, and in this one we're reviewing jobs and sports. Most of this is good, but of course directions should be full so students can easily see what to do. So you've got here, who teaches students, right? Yes, teacher, that's right. Then you grab the card, so you're showing students what to do. You should at least say, continue like this. The winner is the team with the most points. Or show one more example so that the precedent, the gameplay is shown by more than one direction. And even writing things on the board, show that. So, and ask questions. Right, like this is a common phrase for showing, for demonstrating. Something you should all be using because it shows me that you're pointing to the board or screen or something that you're holding, like a card or flashcard. And examples. So we've got here, then write 4 words on the bottom. What kind of 4 words? How do you choose them? Here we've got write and again, how do students choose this? You need examples or a brief recall. Doesn't need teaching because you're assuming they already know that, but just a reminder, you're trying to get the game to work. And when we get down to the flat book, suddenly we're using subject-verb agreement. And again, you're assuming as a teacher, students know that it's he is and not he are. but review that. So because it's needed in the core activity, you should be reviewing this grammar in the preparation, or at least somewhere in the core. So the core activity here is a little short, needs more direction, examples, questions, feedback. Now, you'll remember in our guidelines, this is from week 3, oh, not 4, week 3, that's on the Weebly. Try to follow this when you're making the script language. We did also say try to avoid if. Now, the easiest way to do this, like here we've got, you're choosing teams, you're giving everyone a card, and instead it says, if I say start, find a friend who has number 1. I would just give a quick example. So let's make teams. Here's a card, and you're pointing to somebody, Tim, and here's another card, Jim. Right, look at your card. What number's yours, Tim? Number 1. Jim, number 1. Ah, okay, so you join in one team. Now look for other people with number 1. So if you do it like that, then they'll know what to do, and you can avoid this if hypothetical, which is not in the elementary school syllabus. And although it's used a lot in English, it's not easy for many kids to understand. So if we look at this one, we've got, again, we've got this when thing, and it's difficult to avoid, but I'll show you what I mean once again. So here we've got when, if, the first person, all of that is language that we're actually trying to avoid, as we said in, where is it? In, in the DNU, well, hold up, sorry, here. So avoiding if and third person and difficult words, right? So you're doing it in real time. So you hold up a picture. Okay, what can you see? Or what is this is even better to avoid can. Soccer, right. On the board, can you read that? I like to, okay, so I like to soccer. Is that good English? No. What word's missing? Play, right. So I like to play soccer. Okay, so John, you're first. You go here, put this card here like this. Your team gets 2 points. When you do that, showing them, you don't need when or if. It's not projecting hypothetically when they will play the game. It's doing it in real time. Keeps it simpler. So even students who don't understand the English can see what to do. And in terms of the directions for making the craft, this is much better. You're getting a lot of short directions with questions to follow up as you go through each part. And you can see that 6 lines are not enough. 20 is probably necessary. Don't be afraid to add don'ts. Not just things that are cautions, but things that students should avoid, even if it's mistakes. Like don't write I is play soccer. So you can use what is correct, what they should do, and what is wrong, what they shouldn't do. Okay, first observation, Mr. Anganu. This is not clear. Various keywords. Show me which keywords you're looking at, and it's going to be either one group, like sports, or 2, like sports and musical instruments, and the number is also good. And okay, and be aware of the language that students need to complete the core activity successfully. So although your keywords are sports and musical instruments, again, we're needing the subject-verb agreement. She plays, he plays, I play. Then you've also got these collocations. He does, but not he plays, for example. So this would need to be reviewed. You don't need to teach it. You don't need to say why it's does and not play, but review this so students are clear what the correct combination, the correct 2 words together is. And again, just following what's happening on the screen, it's It's the barest, it's the simplest activity. I expect something more interesting for students to follow, keep them occupied, keep them interested in the class. We mentioned this before about avoiding these difficult words. And this is a common approach to directions. I find the majority of students do this. So you're telling students how to play the game, and you tell them in the third person first, and then you show an example. Why not just go straight to an example? Avoid this third person part. There's less language, and you can talk students through the example as you're doing it. It's easier to follow and understand. And I just want to add that most of my feedback is in the form of these comments on the Google Doc. I'm really struggling to be able to give these comments, do this video, and fill in this paper. So use this paper to guide you in what I'm looking for, but rather than me typing it here and in comments, most of it will be in the comments directly. And I think it's easier to follow where I'm talking about each of these feedback comments anyway. This one reminds me of something that I used to think was clever in English in high school. Finding difficult words, like looking up the thesaurus, the synonym style dictionary, and adding a difficult word to make me look clever. You're probably doing this thinking this is a common word, but if you don't understand it, don't use it. Remember, children is your audience, so keep the language as simple as you can and avoid all these complex words. And once again, if you're preparing it in Google Docs or Doc, there's a lot of different simple things that can be corrected, like this, is quite poor English, but if you click on it, you'll probably see some suggestions which will probably improve your English, so use those. And in terms of teacher techniques, try to use something from the teacher toolbox file, even if it's just colors like this, because then it shows you've thought of the problems that students might have. So they're choosing one red, one yellow, one green word in this game to make a correct sentence. So try to use some teacher techniques where you can. Okay, that wraps up this. I've managed to get through everyone I think appears somewhere in our video, but please do read the comments. I'm spending a lot of time trying to give you useful feedback. Overall, the quality is better than last semester, and I think that's partly due to the shockingly difficult midterm quiz. So that woke up some of you and you recognize that there's still a lot to do. And maybe the meet we did last week and seeing a model script. So the biggest problem is still teacher telling students. It's not a lecture. You need to interact by asking lots of questions, paraphrasing where possible, getting and giving examples. So break your directions up with lots of interactions. You're not just telling, you are demonstrating. Okay, that's it for this week. Until next week.